So in order to do the grid enlargement of our upside down drawing, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the grid on the smaller piece, on the original copy. So it's going to look like this. Remember, we're going to end up drawing it by holding it upside down. That's going to help us remember to look at just lines and shapes. More on that later. But we have to make this grid first. I want you to start on the top, which is the bottom. And we're going to make a line along that bottom, which is 4 inches long. And we're going to mark every whole inch. So at the 1, at the 2, at the 3, and at the 4. Just a reminder, for inches side, this long line is the whole number for the inches. Because the side is kind of a little bit more difficult to do the math of dividing it into quarters, I want you to use the centimeter side. And we're going to go to 14 centimeters to make a nice whole number. So from 0 to 14. And again, the long line is the whole number. So we're trying to divide it into quarters. Half of 14 is 7. Half of 7 is 3.5. So that longish line in between 3 and the 4, that's 3.5. And again, also at 10.5. If you are using the inches, you can see it doesn't, because the line is 5.5 inches long, you're going to have to start to think about, well, half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. And half of 2 3/4 is actually 1 3/8. So it's a little bit more difficult to see, but you can use the inches there if you like. So again, this is 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. This is at 3.5 centimeters, which is about 1 3/8 of an inch. This is at 7 centimeters, which is 2.75 inches. This is at 10.5 centimeters, which is about 4 1/8 inches. And this is at 14 centimeters, which is 5.5 inches. So depending on your ruler, you might not even have the 1/8 of an inch marked, so make sure that you're using a good ruler. So in order to make it actually a grid and for it to work properly, we need to make sure that we have the same markings on the other side. So again, I'm going to do that 4 inches, and I'm going to put a little mark at the 1, 2, 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do not skip that part. It is essential that you mark the outsides as well. If you don't mark the outsides on both sides, you're going to end up with crooked lines and the grid will not work. Everything will become distorted. So I've marked them on both sides. And now we simply connect across. For the small piece, I would encourage you to use a colorful pen, because it will help you distinguish between the lines of the drawing and the lines of your grid more easily. Please take care to line them up and connect straight across so you have an effective grid. For this next step, we're going to set up our double size, which is going to be nearly the whole paper, so please pay attention to how much space I have around it in my sketchbook. Remember, this is happening on the right hand page of your double pages if you're right-handed, and your small piece that we just put the grid on is getting taped upside down on the left-hand side. If you are left-handed, if you draw with your left hand, please put the big grid here and put this guy over here, so that your hand is not interrupted and you can just scan back and forth, okay? So I'll show you how to set that up on another page. You're going to, again, take your ruler And we're going to double the measurements that we did before. So these were 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're going to become 2, 4, 6, and 8. So remember, we just have a little bit of space, so I want to draw a straight line, and please do this one in pencil because we're actually going to erase it. While I do that, I'm marking my ends, my 0 and my 8. Pay attention that you're starting at the 0, 2, 4, and 6. Now I need to do the long side. Remember, we switched to centimeters because it was a bit easier. If you want to use centimeters, you can. If you want to use inches, you can. I'll show you centimeters on this side. I'm keeping it parallel to the edge of my paper. I'm not going crooked. I'm going to make a long line down to 28 because the last time it was 14 centimeters. Double 14 is 28, which means 14 is my new half. So it was 3.5, now it's 7. It was 7, now it's 14. It was 10.5, it's now 21. And it was 14, it's now 28. All right, so we're literally doubling the measurements to make an enlarged grid. Again, try to make sure that you're not going crooked with your ruler. Keep it nice and parallel, and do the bottom edge now. If you want to double check, a good trick is to do this. Let me move this so you can see it. So I'm putting my 8 here, and I'm marking my 0. To make sure I didn't just go slightly up or down, I can then turn over here, and I know it's 11 inches long, so I actually did go just slightly off. So if I line up my 0 and my 11, which is the same as my 0 and my 28, I can mark it there. I know the length in both directions, and I can square it up. So I'm going to come back over here now because I've straightened that properly. Again, mark both sides. If you don't mark both sides, it won't work. 2, 4, 6, 8. And as promised, I'll show you the inches side here. So it was in centimeters on this side. So half of 11, 5.5. And we're going to go at 2 3/4 on this side. And then on this side, it's 8 1/4. So you don't have to worry about 1/8 of an inch on this side, on the ruler for the larger grid. Again, now that I have all 4 marks on, well, technically 3 on the inside, we have marks on all of them. We're going to make sure that we align it. Go nice and straight across. Remember, we're going to erase this at the end, so it doesn't have to be super dark. Make sure you're using a pencil. And there you have it. These are proportionately doubled so that we're ready to go. Now the final piece is to draw whatever you see in this box, whatever's in this box goes in this box, so it's kind of corresponding.